All right. I'd like to welcome everyone. Once again, you are most welcome. Thank you for joining the Smart Leader Live this evening. The Smart Leader Live Q&A session holds on Saturdays, 7 p.m. to 8 West African time. So you're welcome on this program. What we do is to discuss the subject of leadership, and well, we call it leadership on the go, and we allow participants to bring their leadership challenges or whatever concerns they may have on the subject of leadership so that we all can examine them and help each other to build the competence and the capacity to lead. We regard leadership as the cornerstone virtually to everything. You want anything to work, it lies on the shoulders of leadership. So as they say, everything rises and falls on leadership. So from time to time, I decide, as the anchor for this session, either to just allow us to ask questions or to share some thoughts of mine as the basis for motivating a discussion. Last week, I did something like that. So for those who may be interested in what the session was focused on last week, you may want to check my YouTube channel. It's Olatunji Shogodu. I think last week we discussed the place of power and authority for leadership, the place of power and authority for leadership. I mean, that's something that's very important. Many times what we hear is about how leaders should or should not rely on power and authority in conducting their leadership activity. So we try to lay that issue to rest by putting the record straight last week. And we did show that authority and power are very crucial for doing leadership right. That what is of importance is how to use authority and power for the purpose for which it is given. So if you are interested, and I like to recommend it for anyone who missed last week's session. So today I've chosen to do something like that. But today, as you may have seen in the emails that I sent out, I want to speak on the subject of the leader's compass, or if you like, the compass of the leader. That's what I want to, share some thoughts on this evening, so that can be an anchor for us, to discuss. One of the things we find also is that when people attend, at times they're shy to put their issues on the table or to ask questions. And so that's why from time to time I decide to make the move, and then get everyone to focus on something that is of importance to the subject of leadership. No question about it. The leader's compass is very crucial. As you may have read in my email, I said, you don't want to be a leader who leads people astray. You want to be a leader who is sure about what he or she is doing and who is basically committed to leading the people aright. True leaders don't lead people astray. They lead people aright. True leaders don't lead people astray. They lead people aright. But many leaders, the irony is that there are leaders who believe that they are leading the people right, whereas they are leading the people astray. Okay. And that would be a big shame, but it does happen. And that's the truth. And I'm going to show that. I will show how it is that somebody may be leading and may be leading astray without even knowing. And then we're also going to see what it takes to lead right, and why is it important for a leader to have a compass. Why should a leader have a compass, and what indeed is the leader's compass? What indeed is the leader's compass? So it's also important. I mean, every time we talk about leadership, leadership is a relationship that involves two parties. And on the one hand, you have the leader. On the other hand, you have the follower. So there are two parties. As they say, it takes two to tango. And so every time you talk about leadership, you are not focusing just on the leader. There is always an implication for the follower. There is always something that the follower must be mindful of. One of my favorite submissions is that every leader is also a follower. All right. Every leader is also a follower. Why? Because there's always a hierarchy. There's always a hierarchy. Every leader answers to somebody else. All right. Just like the president of one nation can answer to the president of some other nations. Not necessarily because one nation is subject to the other, but because of other things, again, like power and authority. Okay. So if that is the case, then every time you're talking leadership, you're addressing two people, and each person needs to mind. The information will be useful for each person. It's important also from the perspective that every follower today may in fact be leading also as we speak. And every follower, all right, in case that follower is not yet a leader or having responsibility for supervising anyone, would become a leader tomorrow. So when you are talking leadership, you are preparing people to take responsibility. You are building capacity. You are building successor leaders. So again, I want to put that in perspective. So when you talk about the leader's compass, it's important that the follower also knows that the leader he or she is following has a compass. Because if the leader you are following doesn't have a compass, then you should rethink your relationship. You also have a responsibility as a follower not to allow anyone to lead you astray. Okay, so just as the leader has a responsibility to take the follower somewhere, or to make the follower into a leader as well, the follower also has a responsibility to ensure that he or she is being led aright. So the subject of the leader's compass is not just of interest to the leader, is also of interest to every follower. Is also of interest to every follower. So let's start by examining the concept of a compass. What is a compass? Why is a compass necessary? Of what use is a compass? Now, I think everyone knows what a compass is, as the background, that I have indicated on the screen shows. And a compass is a device that helps to show direction. Okay, a compass helps you to distinguish north from south, east from west. A compass doesn't just indicate those directions. All right, when you move with a compass in your hands, it tells you in what direction you're heading. So from any point that you are, if you step forward or if you step sideways, either to your left or to your right, or if you step backwards, the compass, the arrow on that device will point you in a particular direction. All right, so you get a sense of direction with a compass. Why would you hold a compass? Therefore, you would hold a compass so that you don't get lost. All right, presumably, you know where you are going, and having a compass in your hands will serve as a useful guide. All right. In actual fact, if you have a compass and you know where you are going, it is almost certain that you would get to where you are going. Compared with somebody who has no compass, all right, and especially is heading in a direction, the person could get lost, all right, because there is no aid to point the person in the direction that he or she is going. There is nothing, if the person heads in the wrong direction, there is nothing to show that that person is headed in the wrong direction. And the person may have gone a distance, all right, before observing certain landmarks, only to discover that, oh, this is not where I'm going, you know, so the person probably has to make a detour. And that means a lot of time can be wasted. A lot of opportunities can be wasted. If somebody was to meet up with another, all right, at a particular time and decided to step out, even if that person stepped out on time, if the person gets lost on the way, and it turns out that because of that, the person arrives late for the meeting, all right, the opportunity may be lost. It may be irredeemably lost. So you see that a compass is very crucial. A compass is very, very crucial. Now, what value does a compass offer? And it's easy to appreciate that from what we have described: direction, guidance. It keeps you on the right track. It helps you to manage time and resources effectively. Now, one of the things that a compass does for a leader, because assuming that where you are headed, you know, you are taking people along with you. You are the one leading a team and you are headed in a particular direction. All right. Maybe you have even told the team, this is the direction in which we're headed. Now, having a compass, they knowing that you have a compass will secure their confidence. All right. Would enhance their trust. It will secure their strong commitment to you. The chances are that whatever you ask them to do, in whatever way you need their cooperation, they would offer it. Why? Because they know that they are not following a blind person. They are following somebody who knows the way. They are following somebody who has an anchor. They are following somebody who is not likely to get lost. They may not know how to get to the direction, to the destination that you have promised. But because they know that you have a compass, you know, they are fine. They will trust you. They will commit to you. You will secure their full cooperation. All right? So you see why it's important for a leader to have a compass. Now, one of the things that we must know, if you are a leader indeed, or if you've handled leadership responsibility, at any level of significance hitherto, or maybe you are even in that role right now, you know that one of the greatest challenges of a leader is securing the trust, the faith, the confidence of your people. All right? People can follow you, but they may not really be following. And until a leader secures the full commitment of his or her people, you really can't take them anywhere. You really can't deliver any value to them. All right? Because value is transferred, is delivered through obedience. If people don't do what you want them to do, how can your efforts positively affect their lives? So you see that a leader who fails to secure commitment on the part of the people will not secure collaboration. And when you are not sure that the people are with you and the house is not divided against itself, when you are not sure of that, then it's unlikely that you'll be effective in your role and you won't make the requisite impact. One of the things that possession of a compass does is that it assures consistency. So if you are to move from point A to point B, every time, as long as you possess a compass, all right, every time you undertake that trip, you will succeed. Why? Because you have a compass, because you have something. So from one, episode to the other, you are consistent and your people are watching. So you're not handling one situation today, and this is how you handle it. But tomorrow, when you're handling the same situation, all right, maybe it occurs again or something very similar, you are doing something else. Leaders who do not possess a compass, tend to operate arbitrarily. That consistency will not be there. And when your people observe that you can't be trusted to follow the same thinking or the same process or the same actions in the face of the same set of problems, then they begin to rethink, whether or not they are following the right person. All right, so you can look at this and say, well, if a leader is not leading then with a compass, if we're not sure that a leader has a compass, then what the situation we have is that a blind person may well be leading the blind. Because the truth is that if you are the leader of a group, the followers depend on you, the people depend on you for direction. All right. Yes, it is true that you expect them to use initiative. Yes, it is true that you may expect them to use discretion. But what is also true is that in the final analysis, everyone is depending on you. Everyone ought to depend on you. Otherwise, why should you be the leader? I mean, the literal concept of leadership is that you are heading in a direction and there are people who are following you. All right, so you are not the one who will be looking up to them. Yes, you expect them to collaborate with you so that you can get your job done and effectively at that. But they are looking up to you, especially to get them to a promised location or destination. Okay, so so that's it. From what we have, established, you'd see that, the concept of a compass is important. And a compass is important, both for the leader, who is the one on whom the people depend to take them to a destination. The compass, the knowledge that the leader possesses a compass is important for the people who are following, because then their confidence, is enhanced, and they know that they are not following somebody who is blind. It's an irony if you are following a leader who is blind. And until you can establish that your leader has a compass, then you may well be following the blind. And that would be a shame. If you're following the blind, what happens? Both of them will fall in the ditch. And I'm afraid to submit that that's the case with many who believe themselves to be following leaders. But it turns out that they end up in a destination that they never bargained for. Maybe one of the reasons is that the leader didn't quite know where he or she was going. Or perhaps the leader wanted to go to a particular destination, but didn't know how to get there and ended up at a different destination. I love the scripture that says that the labor of the foolish wearies all of them, because it does not know how to get to the city. Now, imagine that. That tells us that there are people who head out. They're going to the city. They know where they want to go to. And they step out. And they devote a lot of resources and energy. But at the end of the day, they can't find their way there. They end up in a different destination. All right? All their efforts fail because they don't know how. How did they find themselves in a position where they don't know how? Because they didn't have a compass. Because they didn't have a compass. From what we have seen, a compass gives you direction. It serves as a guide. And you can't hold a compass and get lost. And everyone following you cannot get lost knowing that you have a compass. And indeed, by the way, that you know how to use it. That you know how to use it. Let me say something on this issue of compass before we proceed further. And there's something I would like to establish about a compass. Let's ask ourselves, that device that is called a compass, why is it so reliable? Why do we put our trust in it? If I handed you a compass, why would you put your trust in it? If it says, go this way is the north, why would you follow that north if indeed where you're headed is towards the north? Why not go east? All right? Is it that the compass can't be wrong? What makes us depend on a compass? Why is it so? Is it infallible? For the most part, if a compass is properly calibrated, it can't go wrong. But the reason that the compass is so useful for providing guidance is that the compass is anchored to a truth. It is anchored to a principle that does not fail. In this case, what is it? What principle is that? The compass is not the one that determines north, south, east, or west. No. North, south, east, or west are already determined. All right? Nobody is going to say, the earth already has been configured okay, naturally, if you like, supernaturally as well, that this is north, that is south, this is west, this is east, is already configured. It is truth. Nobody's going to change that tomorrow. There's a principle that has established that. So what a compass, has done, or those who develop the compass, what they've done is they have calibrated the compass. They've anchored the operation of the compass to the principle that is already established. Okay? That is what makes the compass so important. That's what makes the compass reliable. As you use the compass, you may need to recalibrate it from time to time, all right, to ensure that it remains accurate, okay? So I thought that is very important, and I'm going to draw attention to why that is important. Because, you and I wouldn't be acting wise if we just follow a compass, if we carry a compass and we just follow it without knowing or without reflecting on why the compass is, why should we follow it? Why? What is it about the compass that when it says, why should we allow the compass to control us? That when it says, no, where you are headed is north and you are going to the east, this is where you should go. And then we say, oh, and we just follow the east, okay? According to the compass. And the other thing that we should bear in mind is this, and please, this is also very important, that the compass, that device that is based on the principle of how the world works and positioning across the world, has also been proven over the years to be accurate, to be useful, to work. So it's not just that as a device, it is anchored to a principle, to a truth that does not change and cannot change and will not change. It is also the case that it's been proven over thousands of years. So that you possess a compass, or you purchase a compass, or you are handed a compass, all right, you won't be the first to use it. So you can take solace or confidence in the fact that the compass has been used by others and it has worked for them. It has helped them to chart, all right, to navigate life, to move from point A to point B successfully. That's very important. Now, those two things, please add them to our discussion, okay? Because they're going to turn out to be very critical. Now, let me remind us that the Smart Leader Life is, comes to you by Emet Leadership Academy. At Emet Leadership Academy, we nurture leaders based on truth. And truth for us is found in the Word of God. So I'm going to take you to examine a couple of principles, okay? And to show you the concept of the compass in a leader's hands and why it's so important. And bear in mind, we're going to know what it is. By now, you should begin, you should have started thinking, wait a minute, it's true that a leader would be nice, to know, to have a compass as a leader. And so maybe it's the right time to throw the question to you as well. Okay. And you can put a response in the chat if you will for now. And we can discuss later once, I'm done with my remarks. And let's have some comments. Now, do you as a leader have a compass? Have you operated as a leader with a compass? What's your compass? What gives you the confidence to provide that leadership to your people? What gives you the confidence that if your people submit to you, that you are going to take them to the destination that you promised them? In fact, did you in fact promise your people any destination? Or are you just working with them? Yes, you are the head of the department, and that's it. And as long as you get the job of the department done, then you have provided leadership. I hope that's not your approach to leadership, because that means you are not providing leadership. If you are providing leadership, your people must know why they are working for you or with you. Where are you taking them? And they must know that not just as a team, but on an individual basis. Why? Because leadership is an individual relationship. You may have 10 people reporting to you. Yes, you are leading the 10, but make no mistake, you have a leadership relationship on individual basis. If you think that you are leading a team of 10 and you just focus on everybody as a group and you don't pay attention to individuals, you don't establish and confirm to the people that you're interested in each person and you are focusing on each person so that you can develop each person, you're not doing leadership the way it should be done. All right? Because leadership is personal, even if you are leading a team. All right? Everyone must have that understanding and conviction that they have a personal relationship with their leader. Okay? But that's a subject for another day. If you've listened to me long enough, you must have heard me speak on that dimension of leadership. But maybe we'll come there some other day. But let's start off to begin to look at a few things that gives you, that provokes us into revisiting how we approach the responsibility of leadership and whether or not we have operated with a compass. Okay. But be clear, if you have not operated with a compass, you are blind. And I say that with very due respects, please. And those who are following you, of course, they are dependent on you to take them to a location. But they're also inevitably or inadvertently blind as well, because they can't take themselves, all right, to that location. And you that they are trusting can't help them either. Okay? And that's the kind of situation we want to avoid going forward. I'm going to move in not in any particular sequence now, because I want to pick things from different places. And you see, let's start from a principle that all of us know, and maybe a parable that everyone knows. And we know the parable of the sower. That's something everybody can relate to. Everyone can relate to that because that's something that you and I see. I mean, and if you know anything about farming, or maybe you read a Greek, or maybe you've been into farming like, I have been, or maybe you've invested in farming or even if you're a casual observer, or you have some bit of education, that the parable of the sower, makes a lot of sense. But let's think about it. Why would the farmer, we're told that the sower, which is a farmer, went out to sow, okay? And, then he held seeds. He held a seed. And so he goes out to plant. And that, every other thing that happens, all right, follows the seed, because there is a process that is involved in turning seed to harvest. All right. So the operation of the sower is anchored on the seed. Is anchored on the seed. Without a seed, imagine a farmer trying to achieve a harvest without a seed. But when a farmer holds a seed, the farmer, by definition, understands the principles behind turning a seed into harvest, or producing a harvest of fruit from a seed. So the seed becomes the anchor. The seed for the farmer becomes like the compass, the guarantee that the farmer will reap a harvest of a particular kind of fruit, a harvest of an estimated quantity, all right, is based on the possession of a seed. The farmer without a seed, whatever else the farmer does on the farm will be a waste of time, if the objective of the farmer is to produce a harvest of fruits. So a farmer needs a compass. The compass is the guarantee that the farmer, as he goes out, maybe, and the farmer, of course, usually doesn't work by himself. If he has a reasonably sized farm, he needs people to work with him. And the people have an idea that the reason we're going to the farm is because, we're going to work till in expectation of a harvest sometime down the line. It could be 3 months, it could be 6 months, it could be 9 months, depending on whatever it is they choose to plant. All right. So the farmer knows that he or she must have seeds. And once you have the seed, a lot of things, life becomes very easy. If you have orange seeds, the process, If it's guava seeds, the process, If you are interested in producing yams, then you know the equivalent of the seed for yams. If you're interested in producing plantains, you know that you need suckers. That's the equivalent of the seed. But once you have that, an understanding of how to use it, you're almost guaranteed that after doing this, over this period of time, you would arrive at this destination. And everyone who is working with you, once they know that, the seeds we're holding are orange seeds, okay, they begin to get confident, because now already there is direction. there is some guidance. You can't hold orange seeds and then you are following the procedure for cultivating plantains or bananas. No, the fact that this is the seed you hold tells you where we are going and gives you an idea of the process that will take you there. For you to depart from the process at any point would be to act stupidly. Why? Because you know that if you don't follow the process that you know, harvest is not assured. So you are the farmer and you are leading your workers. All right? Why should they follow you? What's the compass that you are holding? Why should they believe that their adventure with you will be fruitful, will take them somewhere, will yield them benefits? Why? It's because you have a compass. It's because you're holding seeds. It's because they know the type of seed you're holding. And then they start watching to see the process that you are following. They know that because you are holding orange seeds and you are a farmer, you are not a fake. All right. Notice when that parable, that story tells us a farmer went out to sow, it already told us that this person has knowledge of what to do. Do you understand? It described the person. It didn't say that some stranger went out. It didn't say a farmer went out to sow. An engineer went out to do something. All right. That means that this person has knowledge of how to, operate in this area, of how to get results in this area. But that person has an anchor. And that anchor is what ensures that that person never goes astray and ends up achieving the results that he or she has been trained to achieve. In the case of leadership, it is achieving results in your people, all right, so that together you can achieve a particular result. So you see, the leader needs a compass. Let me use an example that is like a variant of this parable. That one is called the parable of the tares. Okay. And some of you may be interested. I have a program that I call Profit from Parables. And that is for many months. And it's a program that takes those who want to really go on an adventure. All right. Where we look at every one of the 38 parables of Jesus. And we look at the application, how to understand it, how to use it practically in at least 9 areas of life. Okay. But that's not what we're talking about today. But there's one they call the parable of the tares. The parable of the tares, T-A-R-E-S, is basically a story where you find a farmer who has a farm. And sometime we're told that while, everyone was sleeping, the owner and the servants, that adversaries, maybe competitors, came in to plant tares or weeds or thorns, if you like. And the idea was for them to truncate the process, was for them to make it impossible for the person who had invested in that farm to realize, his harvest. And so when everybody woke up, after some time, then they noticed that, wait a minute, this is not what we planted. And so the servants went to the master, their leader in that sense, and said, sir, did you not plant this kind of seeds? Do you understand? Why did the servant say, go to the master to say, but sir, these are the seeds you planted. Why are we seeing these weeds? Why are we seeing thorns? That's not what you planted. You see, the confidence of the servants were shaken because they already understood that their master had a compass. They already understood that their master was following certain principles. And by their understanding, the phenomenon that was playing out was at variance with what they had been told, what they had been taught, what they now have come to expect. All right? You see the beauty of a leader having a compass, because the people themselves knew when something was going wrong, and they were able to quickly call the attention of the leader. All right? So that also they don't, because they have a stake, so they don't end up, at a destination they didn't bargain for. Because if nothing was done about those tares, there would never be a harvest. That would have meant that their entire effort would have been wasted. And can you imagine? Nobody wants to be subject to that. And so they ran to their master. And the master said, somebody came who does not like what we're doing. An enemy has come, and the target is to corrupt all our efforts, is to make sure that we have no harvest to report, and we don't make money from this investment. So the leader had understanding. But notice what happened to show you that the leader had a compass. Then the servant said to him, sir, okay, since this is not what we're expecting, since somebody has come to tamper with what we were doing, let's move in straight away and let's pull up all those weeds. Let's get rid of the weeds. That seemed like a good idea. That was as far as they knew. And what did the master say? Say, wait a minute, gentlemen, wait a minute. No, that's not how to do it. He said, leave it. Let it grow together with the wheat. Let both of them grow together. But when it gets to the time of harvest, then we will harvest the wheat first. And after we have harvested the wheat, which is our original goal, then we will gather all of those weeds and we burn them. All right? Look at, why was the direction that the leader gave, why was it different? Why was it completely at variance with the thinking of the servants? Because the leader was in the driver's seat. Because the leader possessed the compass. The leader knew what should be done, what should not be done. The leader had been so trained that he knew that when that kind of scenario played out, he knew exactly what needed to be done. But those who were servants were still under tutelage. They were still under him. He was still teaching them how to get things done. They had never seen that kind of situation before. Look at what they were going to do. They were going to mess everything up. In fact, they were going to, if they had followed their own wisdom, they would have helped the enemy to achieve the result faster than the enemy probably expected. Because if they had gone ahead to pull out the weeds or the tares at the time they noticed it, they would have finished the entire crop. And I can tell you, because that has happened to me before. Practically, I'm telling you honestly, that happened to me when I went into farming, some years ago, and I had a portion of it, I planted tomatoes, and something like that transpired. and we moved in. All right. We didn't do what this guy said. And, you know, it didn't turn out pretty well. Something that we ought to have harvested the tomatoes for 6 weeks continuously. And each week would have been better than the other. I mean, for those who understand farming. But I doubt that we were able to harvest for more than like 2 weeks. And of course, the second was worse than the first. That was because we lacked the required compass. We lacked the required compass. The know-how was not there. You know, I said something earlier. The labor of the foolish wearies him, is guaranteed to weary him, to frustrate him. Why? Because he does not know how to get to where he wants to get to. That's what would have happened. These servants would have created a problem. Thank God, the leader had a compass. The leader had a compass. The leader had a compass. Why also, you would think, do you notice that we were never told that the servants queried the leader and said, no, why didn't they argue with him? Was it because he was the owner? No. When you look at it, they ran to him and asked him a question. He said, sir, did you not plant this kind of seeds? Why are we now seeing something like this? That is, they had some understanding. And that understanding had come from their leader. That's why this time that the leader was telling them, no, don't do it that way. This is how you should do it. They didn't ask any questions. They just followed the leader. These were people who were committed to their leader. Why? Because they knew that their leader had a compass. Their leader knew exactly what he or she was doing. It was precision. Their leader knew exactly. Some people will say, you know, if it were a religious thing, you know, they will say, well, all right, an enemy came and all of that. And we start talking about, you know, why did the people sleep and all of that. Of course, you can't be awake. I mean, you have to sleep. The enemy came at night. What should you be doing at night? You should be asleep. It's not normal for somebody. I mean, it's bad things that get done at night. Okay, so that's not the issue. The principle that parable teaches, and that's why, you know, I designed the series on the parables. You must understand these parables teach principles. The principles of life that help you to succeed. In this case, if this guy didn't understand the principle, if he didn't have a compass, he would have bungled that investment. He would have bungled the investment. So, you know, so we begin to see the importance of the compass for a leader. Do you have a compass? Or you are just leading? Or you are just taking issues as they come day by day? What is your leadership anchored to? What are the principles that you follow? What are the principles you follow? Let's look at another example. And we saw the example, you know, again, you know, the Bible tells us that another adversary came, you know, and decided to come and put obstacles in the way of Jesus, this leader. And it came to him, the devil, saying, look, if you are the Son of God, that is, if you are a leader indeed, if you have been well trained as a leader, because a son of God, a son of anybody is the product of that person. Okay. And so when you look at the son, you expect to see the things that you see in the father, in the son, isn't it? So you can borrow a lot from what transpired there. When it came to him, what did he say? He decided to test him to see whether he was qualified to lead. Was he qualified to lead? That encounter, I did a series recently a 3-part series where I spoke about, what qualifies you to lead, what qualifies you to lead. Very intensive, and it's important, So look at what happened. 3 different tests that this adversary put before this leader. All right. And so the first one, he knew that this guy, Jesus was very hungry. He came out of 40 days of fasting. He was very hungry. If there was one thing he needed at that time, he needed to eat. And this fellow came. He said, well, if you are the Son of God, I know you have power. I know you have authority. Command the stones. Let them become bread and eat. He had the power to command the stones, to turn them to bread. That was true. But what was his response? He said, no, I'm not going to turn stones to bread. That's not the purpose for which I was given power and authority. I won't misuse my power and my authority. All right? He said, it is written. It is written. Say, man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceeds out of the mouth of God. It is written. Where did he hear that? Was it written or not? Yes, it was written. It is written. So what was he saying there? He was saying that I have a compass. I don't just act anyhow. I'm a leader. I don't just act anyhow. I have a compass. You want to know what the compass is? It is written. 3 times the stumbling block was put to prove whether he was truly qualified to lead. And each of the 3 times, what was his go-to? It is written. Was it the one that wrote it? No. How did he know what was written? That was what he was taught. That was what he was taught. That was what he learned. From who? From his leader. From his leader. He learned it. You can't say it is written without you knowing that it is written somewhere. And when you say it is written, it's written somewhere. You know where it is written. You can point it out. Anybody can check it. He was a leader who had a compass. If somebody is following you, and every time you face a stumbling block, and you are faced with the kind of challenges that he was faced with, and the people listen to what you say, and you say, this is the principle to use here. This is what we're going to do. And the next one said, okay, this is the principle to use. This is what we're going to use. Another one comes, you say, okay, this is the principle to use. This is what we're going to do. Every time you are saying, they are watching you and they are seeing that you are operating according to something. You have a set of principles. There is a knowledge that is clear that you can explain to them. That is the basis for your actions. So you have a compass. Did he not have a compass there? 3 times, he said, it is written. It is written. It is written. If that guy continued, his response every time would have been, it is written. He will pull something out of the same book. He had answers in the same book. And the reason he could pull up the answers was because he knew what was contained in the book. He had been schooled. He had been schooled. He knew exactly what was contained. So what principles are you following? What are you drawing from? When you face situations with your people, what do you use? Where is it written? Or is it every time that you face problems, now you have to be the one thinking through the problems? No, that's not how leadership is done. That means you have not been properly trained. If you have been trained, then you must have been armed with some fundamental principles on how to provide leadership. And they will be your guide. They will be your guide. This same Jesus told us clearly his modus operandi. He said, look, I can of my own self do nothing. I mean, somebody of that caliber saying, acknowledging, let me be clear to you. The things I do is not from me. They are things I learned from my own leader. And I'm clear in my mind about those principles. He said, what I hear is what I do. What I see him do is what I do. So when I tell you it is written, it's because that's what he taught me. When he went in Luke 2 and verse 49, and his mother was looking for him, and they found him, in the church, as it were, in the synagogue, reading from the book, learning with the doctors and teachers of the law. What do you think he was doing? He was learning. So later he said it is written. How did he know that it was written? Did he come from heaven with it? No, he learned it under those guys, because those guys were the custodians of the book. They knew what was written. And we're told that he was brainstorming with them. He was asking questions. He was replying. He did that for, many years before he stepped out and started calling 12 people to follow him. He was trained. He took delivery of a compass. He had a compass. And when he began to lead them, it wasn't up to his whims and caprices. It wasn't up to his own ideas. It wasn't, things that he just, conjured. No. He was operating according to, and in many places, he made such references. One time some people were, arguing with him. Why would you call yourself, a God? You are saying you are son of God. I mean, if I'm the product of a leader, the product of a leader, is a successful leader. That's how it is. If you work with me, all right, for an appreciable amount of time, and I deliver the benefits of leadership, all right, to you, you must emerge as a leader. So he was not saying anything that was strange, but they, in their own, warped understanding, felt that he was, just trying to be funny and projecting himself. And he said, why would you call yourself a God? And he replied them. He said, is it not written? Is it not written in your book, in the law? Isn't it written that you are gods? Is it not written? It is written. It's there in the Psalms. He said, they know not. All right? They don't have any understanding. He said, all the foundations are out of course. He said, I have said, you are gods. But all of you are the children of the Most High. He said, but you will die like men and fall like the princes. Okay? He was quoting. Anybody can go and check it. So when you lead, where is your own compass? What's your anchor? What is to assure your people that you know what you are doing? What is to give them the confidence that they should follow you, that you are safe to follow, that you won't lead them into a ditch? That's what we're talking about here. That's the compass. That's the compass. Every leader needs a compass. Do you realize, for example, that this same man that we're talking about, we were told that he was fond of teaching. It was a cornerstone principle he operated. And there was a reason he did that. So he would teach and he would heal. So you can look at that healing like solving people's problems. All right? Which is what a leader also is expected to do. Okay? But we were told that he never taught without parables. He never taught without parables. What are parables? They are stories, day-to-day stories, for illustrating fundamental principles of life. That's what parables are. That's what parables are. Why did he never teach without using parables? Because he understood that the leader, the people that he was developing, they must have a compass. They must have a compass. They must have a compass. Otherwise, they will go astray. Otherwise, when he is no longer there, as every leader must prepare his people, that a time will come you won't be there. When you become successors, you are no longer the one that will be calling the shots. They will be the one calling the shots. So the question is, when they get to that point, what will they be doing? How can you be sure that they will do right if you have not delivered a compass to them? You can't be sure that they will do right. A compass was delivered to Jesus. He in turn delivered the compass to his people. That's why his people will say at a point when the council was telling them, gentlemen, we warn you, don't go out and say the things you are saying again. They looked at them face to face, eyeball to eyeball. He said to them, you think about it yourself. What you are saying, does it make any sense? He said, we cannot but say the things that we have heard and seen. We cannot. We are telling you. Why? A compass has been delivered to our hands. We are now in leadership positions. We have a clear mandate. And that mandate, we have anchored it to a compass. Is the only guarantee that we will do things in line with what we were taught. We will get the same results and indeed better results than the person who taught us got. And that's what they did. And they repeated it many times, all right, in different circumstances. Even Paul, when he repeated it, he said, the things that we have heard, the things that we have seen, the things that our hands have handled, that's the things we are declaring to you, so that you can exhibit the same attributes that we're exhibiting. That's how it goes. That's the guarantee that you succeed as a leader. It is what did you take delivery of? What did you take delivery of? What are you operating by? Is what you take delivery of that you must operate by. That's why leaders are made, they are not born. Because if you are born, which knowledge have you taken delivery? Who taught you? You say you are a leader and nobody taught you. You are not a leader, you're just fooling yourself. Nobody handed you a compass. No leader designs a compass by himself. He said it is written. Was it the one that wrote it? No. He took delivery of it. Yes, I mean, there is a sense in which you can say it was part of those who wrote it, but in this sense, he took delivery of it. Because if he was part of those who wrote it, he shouldn't sit under anybody to teach him what was inside the book. But we know that he sat under people, who taught him what was inside the book. Okay, so I mean, so let me round up by handing you like 6 things, because the question you could then ask is to say, okay, so how do you know if a leader has a compass? How do you know if a leader has a compass? How do you know if you have a compass? Because until you have it, you can't lead right. And how do you know if you have a leader that you are following, that leader has a compass? It's in your best interest to know that the leader has a compass. Otherwise, you are at risk. And you may need to start looking for somebody else to follow. All right, number 1 is to ask the question, And I'm throwing this up so you can think about it and you can express it in your own way. Does he make reference to what he learned from a leader or who he learned from? You can even look at those as two different things. Does he often make reference to what he learned from somebody else, from a leader? Does he often make reference to it? Does he often call those things into remembrance when he's dealing with issues? I mean, you must have seen people who will say, I remember when this kind of challenge came up, when I was still working with this person, this was how we dealt with it. These were the things that he did. And he goes ahead to show you that he's applying the same things that he learned. If you have a leader who never makes such references, then you begin to question, does this leader have a compass? So he's either making reference to the things that he learned or to the person that he learned from, or both, or both. I think about 3 or 4 sessions ago, we had a session where we discussed, a comment that Tony Elumelu of UBA, the chairman of UBA, wrote. And one of the things we pulled out and spoke about extensively was how he publicly acknowledged a leader who he worked with, the things that the leader taught him, and how those things he's still using them today. And when his people say, how are you doing this thing? Why do you respond to emails so fast? He said, I learned from the best. And this is the person. And this person taught me, because every time I wrote a memo in those days, when I submit to him, the man always responds spot on, fast. And I have been taught that. I'm doing that today. You see? That tells you. In that case, he mentioned what he learned and how he's still using it today. He also mentioned the person he learned from. So clearly, that leader he followed had a compass. He now has a compass, because those are the things that guide his approach to leadership. Those are the things that people see now and they're excited, they're amazed, and they praise him for being effective. Why? He learned them. He learned them from somebody else. Number 2, or number 3, if you chose to break up the first 2, does he operate by what is written? Does he operate by what is written? We use the example of Jesus. He operated by what is written. Does he operate by what is written? What he learned. It could be some theories. It could be some truths, because there are some brutal truths about leadership. Fundamental. They are cornerstone truths. You can't succeed as a leader without them. All right. That's the focus of a program of my class of 12. All right. 12. I discussed 12 brutal truths about leadership. If you know them, you're not likely to fail. So does he operate by what is written? Does he operate by what is written? We saw in the example, with Jesus, that the security, his security in that encounter was what was written. He didn't pray. That's not how he overcame. That's not how he proved that he had the capacity to lead. What is written? He proved that he was indeed a son of God, that is a bona fide leader, a leader in his own right, because he demonstrated clearly understanding of what was written and how to apply it. Because he successfully applied it in all the 3 instances and came out, victorious. Number 3. Does this leader hold on to truth, even if all those following him find it hard to embrace? Is he uncompromising about the truths that he knows? That's a leader. When a leader holds on to truth and doesn't mind whether you decide to leave him or not, because he's speaking truth and is operating by truth, truth that he knows clearly, truth that he has shared with you, all right, that is probably taught you or is teaching you, and you are finding it difficult to embrace. That's a leader who has a compass. You can see that also again with Jesus in John 6, when he told them certain things. And then the people said, this is a hard saying. Who can bear this? Who can operate with this? How can you tell us this kind of thing? And he turned around and looked at them and said, does this offend you? I'm not going to change my, approach. This is truth. You either take it or you leave it. And you are free to go, by the way. Following a leader is not mandatory. It's optional. A leader can't force anybody and shouldn't force anybody to follow. All right? And so some of the people left. But interestingly, he now turned to the 12 that he chose by himself, who had been with him for longer than anybody else. And he said, do you guys want to follow as well? And guess what they said? He said, to whom are we going? Who will we go? He said, you have the words of eternal life. Wow. So the people understood that this man knew what was written. He had command of certain truths. They understood that what he was saying is the truth. And they say, well, the truth may be difficult, but we're going to stand by it. We have confidence in the fact that you are standing on truth, because we know it's going to get us to the right destination. So that's number 3 or number 4, as the case may be. And number 4, I said, is he or she committed to learning? And does he or she let you know the channels through which they learn? So for example, the leader you are following, does he read books? Does he share some of those books with you? All right, some of the things that he sees, he reads, he learns from books, from courses. Does he have a coach, for example, or a mentor? Or does he subject himself to coaching? What is he doing to improve himself? When you find people like that, they have an anchor, because all of that is akin to them trying to understand what is written so that they can apply it, so that going forward, when they face situations like Jesus, they also will recall what is written and can apply it. Number 5 or 6, as the case may be, are you aware of the key principles that your leader operates by? Are people aware of your principles as a leader? Do they know the principles you operate by? Or you just do things, on your own? Is that how you operate? Okay? Is that how you operate? It's important that your people know the principles. When you find leaders who are quick to share their principles, who are quick to remind you of certain things, and they do that, they tend to do that from time to time. It tells you that they're not flying blind at all. They have a compass and they're operating by it. Finally, let me leave this with you. So this could be 6 or 7. If you broke the first one into 2, it would be 7. So he said, how often does he acknowledge that he is not self-made, but the product of a dedicated leader? If your leader is quick often to let you know that I am not self-made, all right, I have benefited from leaders. I have benefited, and I am saying that, from leaders. Okay, I've benefited from leaders. So if you're working with somebody and it makes it clear, it's not the one that gives you the idea. If somebody keeps telling you self-made and keeps talking about himself and never make reference, to people he or she has worked with, never suggests that he or she has learned from anybody, that person does not have a compass. There is nothing that anyone has that we have not received. There is no one who is self-made. Those who believe themselves to be self-made are self-deluded, and they are proud. They need to be humble, because nobody ever got to where they got to, good or bad, by the way, without the influence of others, without picking up stuff from others. Those who end up being bad on their journey picked up more bad things than good things. That's why, because a bad tree will always produce bad fruit. And those who ended up, with more, who ended up as good, picked up more good things from people than they picked up bad things. But everyone is the product of people, of what we have benefited from others. It's a different thing whether you choose or you are wise enough to acknowledge it. It's a different thing entirely. But to suggest to people shows the kind of person you are. So I would run from a leader who is projecting self, all right, and never acknowledges that they have benefited from others. The chances are they don't have a compass, all right, and they're taking nobody nowhere. Ladies and gentlemen, I could say more, but I think we've spent quite some time this evening. Once again, I'd like to just appreciate everyone who has joined. And so I hope that now you know what the leader's compass is and why the leader needs a compass and why you as a leader need a compass. It's your guarantee, to yourself and to your people, those who are looking up to you and who have committed themselves to following you. Is the guarantee that you will take them to the destination that you promised without fail. So you want to succeed as a leader, go for the compass and ensure you have one. Ensure that it's properly calibrated, and ensure that you recalibrate it from time to time. The way to recalibrate it is captured in another program that I have, which I call Sharpen Your Axe. Because the more you use a compass, the more you need to, it's a mechanical device in quotes. And so from time to time, you need to recalibrate it to ensure that it's accurate. It's like you using an axe. The more you use the axe, the edges of the axe will be dull. So the more you do leadership, even with your principles and values and all of that, you will need from time to time to sharpen your axe. Otherwise, the accuracy of your compass can be tampered with use, all right? And then, of course, your effectiveness can be undermined, all right, if you don't sharpen your axe. So again, if you're in a position where you know that my leadership, capacity, I need to sharpen my axe. Yes, I've been doing well, but I've not been as effective as I used to be, or I want to move my effectiveness to a new level. Ask me about that program. It's probably something that, you should get on. All right, so that's it, ladies and gentlemen. Once again, I'd like to thank you for listening, for joining me this evening. So if we haven't spent too much time for you to ask any question, here is a good time for anyone to ask a question. So please go ahead. If you have a question, we can spend a few minutes, if you will, to just attend to that. But if anyone, would like to leave, well, that's it from my end, but of course, you're welcome to stay if you'd like to just, listen to any questions that others will bring up, and what answers we would provide. So thank you very much. Who has any, you can make a contribution. You don't have to ask a question. You can offer your own perspective. You can provide comments, just, enrich the discussion. You can also share if, what you are taking away from the session, it will help as a good feedback, for me. And as I always say, I love to have feedback. So there it is, the Leader's Compass. If you want to speak, please just unmute your mic and you have the floor. Once again, thank you very much. Okay, I think I see. All right, Tari says, thank you very much. I realize that every leader is a follower and every follower is a leader. All right. Okay, thank you for sharing that. Is there any other comment, or is that it for today? Do we have any other comment? Please go ahead. If you want to make any other comments, you can also put it in the chat if you feel more comfortable doing it that way, or otherwise, although I would prefer that you speak. All right, do I sense that somebody wants to speak? All right, it appears we're not having any more contributions. All right, then. So I'd like to just once again say thank you very much for joining me this evening. I hope, it has been worth your while and you have gained something very important that will help you and I to up our game as far as, delivering in our leadership roles are concerned. And if that has been the case, once again, thank you very much and have a wonderful week ahead. God bless you.
And thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Ma.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining, Ma.
Thank you. Have a nice weekend. Bye-bye.
Same to you. Bye-bye, Ma.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Chiso. God bless you too.
Okay, bye-bye.
Thank you, sir.
Yes,
bye-bye.
So much. Thank you so much. I appreciate. And like I said, I think I realized so much that even in my little position, I'm also a leader.
Okay.
And yes, as a follower, I'm also a leader. And
yes.
Every leader, president, is also a follower. There's somebody ahead
Correct.
of him. The Almighty God is ahead.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I don't know whether Ogbemi is Mr. or Mrs. Whatever the case may be, thank you very much for joining us this evening. It was a pleasure having you with us today. All right. Good night and God bless you. Bye-bye.